2, 3, 4.
Run up your engines! Today I'm going to analyze a used car. In this case, it's a 2003 Nissan Altima with about 100,000 miles on it. Did the customer buy it or not? I'm going to give you the truth about this car. Now, to begin with, no one in their right mind would have bought this car brand new. Brand new, it was about $17,500. For $2 grand more, you could have got a Toyota Camry, 10 times better built than this thing. So buying one of these things new, you would have been a fool. But used, these Altimas go for practically nothing. Quality isn't there, yes. But if you can get them cheap enough and they're in decent enough shape, they can be good knockaround cars. You will never get a Toyota Camry with 100,000 miles on it all that cheap. I've had customers buy these things all day long. The Altimas, $800, $1,000, $1,500. You'll never get a Camry with 100,000 miles that cheap. If you look at this particular model, you can see it's definitely been wrecked. The fender's a different color than the hood, definitely different shade. You know, it's a Nissan. You'll look closely, you'll see the clear coat paint is coming off on the body, and it's even coming off on the rims. Nissan has such poor quality. Hey, even the rims are fading away. And even the tail lenses are cracked up. Just overall, it's got a bunch of scratches. That's not the car's fault, but here we go. The plastic door handle's broken. Typical Nissan poor quality. Let's check under the hood. Now, it does have a 2.5 liter variable valve timing Nissan engine. It's a relatively dependable engine, and it's made it to a standard transmission. Now, the real problems with Altimas and most Nissans, modern ones, is they're horrible Jatco automatic transmissions. These standard transmissions are relatively bulletproof. They can run and run and run. So that's a big plus for this model. Now, realize this Altima was built after the Renault-Nissan merger, where the quality started to go down, but not too far after. It's 2003 after all. So the build quality of this, as bad as it may be, is better than the more modern ones. As we can see on the door, they're being kind of shifty here. When you look, you can see manufactured by Nissan Motor Company. So you think it's made in Japan. There's nothing on the sticker that would tell you otherwise. But Scotty knows cars. This baby was made in Tennessee. They were made in the United States. They were not made in Japan. All I have to say is the quality of the ones made in Japan better than the ones made here. End of story. Now, that's a four-door. Basic interior. It's a low-end car. Cloth seats. And it's got room in the back. Typical economy car. There's no AC in the back. They're comfortable enough. And it's got a decent trunk. Got a lot of space in it. No arguing that. What about the mechanical and electronic shape it's in? Hook up my giant scan tool and start it up. First thing I can hear and feel is a clunk when I start it. Listen closely. You hear that clunk? Okay, the clunk means transmission and or motor mounts are going bad. It's a reasonable expense. Eventually it'll break, things will start, the drive shafts will snap. You gotta fix that eventually. So there's a big negative on this car. Now, being a Japanese car, hey, it's still got ice cold air. Hey, you could use this thing as a portable air conditioner at least. You could park it in your yard or your driveway and stay nice and cool. Take it to the beach, stay nice and cool. It's got that plus, but when I go through my scan tool, I found all kinds of problems. One, it's got a problem with the oxygen sensor system, the anti-pollution system. That can be expensive to repair. So if you live in an area where you need a state inspection every year to meet the emissions, this thing would fail. You might end up spending a lot of money fixing it. That's where the sticker used to be. Doesn't have one now, so obviously it didn't pass last time either. And you can see the poor quality, the plastic's all cracking up on it. But when you start it, you're gonna hear something else. Besides that clunk, listen. That's the power steering. The power steering is leaking. Customer knows that, but they don't know why it's leaking. I'm here to find out. So when I check under the hood, I can see that down in here, the power steering pump is all leaking. It's in a horrible place too. It's way down there. There, you can see the belt there. There it is. The shiny part. You really can't see it. That belt drives it. Underneath, it's coated with fluid. It's just leaking out of the power steering pump. New, good power steering pumps are not cheap. They have up to 1,400 pounds per square inch pressure. You get a rebuilt one, they're often crap. When I replace them, I only use new ones or tell the customer, buy whatever you want, I'll install it. But I'm not going to guarantee anything other than I put it on right, because the rebuilt ones are often junk. You got to go new, and that's a lot of money, but that's just the tip of the iceberg in this baby. Because when I jacked it up in here, we can see the power steering rack is leaking too. And not only is it leaking here, you can see all the rubber covered with power steering fluid. It's leaking on that end. When I crawled to the other side, it was also leaking at that end, so it needs a new rack. Since power steering systems are up to 1,400 pounds per square inch, you really can't fix them yourself. You want to do it right, you would need an expensive new pump and an expensive new rack. Now yes, they do have rebuilt racks. My experience is they're garbage. They're just old, worn out racks. They put new seals on. Maybe they'll last a year, maybe they'll last 6 months. Sometimes they don't even work when you put them on. So to fix this thing right, hey, $1,500, $1,600 for that alone. You consider the anti-pollution system isn't working right. Motor mounts are going out on it. Body's dinged, scratched. I would not advise anybody to buy this car. Unless, of course, you live in some place like North Dakota where they don't inspect them for the safety inspections. So if you could buy a car like this for, say, $400 or something, carry gallons of power steering fluid, or take the belt off and run it without power steering, you could drive it that way. It's just harder to turn. It doesn't hurt anything. And don't care that the motor mounts are clunking up and down and that the dash is cracked. It does have cold AC. I guess you wouldn't care about that in North Dakota, though, because with only 100,000 miles on it, the engine and transmission, hey, they could run a really long time. Hey, let's say you just wanted an engine and a transmission. If you could buy the whole car for $400, maybe you could do something with that. We'll close the hood and take it for a spin. Start it up. And as I said, you can hear the clunk. And the windshield has a giant crack. The dash is cracking. The cloth seats are okay. I mean, you know, it's a Kano car. It does have room in the back seats, but hey, check it out. There's no rear AC blowing on anybody like a Camry would. It's not as quality. Not as a standard. It's got a reasonable amount of pickup, you can see. Not outrageous, but it moves along, and the brakes still work. Bounces around like an old Porky Pig cartoon truck. The struts are all worn out in this, and they need replacing, and that's a reasonable amount of money. You're not going to throw that kind of money. I mean, if it's a knockaround car, you could drive it this way for years, but not the greatest build. Though you look at it overall, the check engine light's on. It's got all those problems with the oxygen sensor system, with the anti-pollution system, with vacuum leaks. Cosmetically, it's in rough shape. The clear coat is peeling off both the paint and the alloy wheels. I wouldn't offer $500 for the car myself. And if you wanted to drive it legally, where they do emissions inspecting, and you got to fix the power steering and the broken motor mounts, you'd be putting thousands of dollars in this thing. You're a do-it-yourself who doesn't mind using cheaper Chinese parts or used parts from a junkyard, but let's face it, this baby's 17 years old. You're going to be buying 17-year-old parts off cars that are in junkyards. Odds are, those parts aren't any good either. And this baby doesn't have that horrible Jatco automatic transmission. It's a standard transmission, but really, as it stands now, this car would only be good for somebody who wanted a project car that they wanted to fix all the things up. If they wanted to make a project car out of it, go right ahead and put thousands into it. It could run for many years, because even though this was after the Nissan Renault merger, it was only a few years after, and they hadn't lost the quality that the modern ones have lost. But for an average person like my customer who doesn't work on cars, this is a bad deal. It's not worth putting any serious money into. It's not even worth buying unless he had another car and this was going to be a project car that he fixed over time and just expected to drive it around as a knockaround car. Because to repaint it, fix all the things that are in it, that'd be like 5 times what the car's worth, and it would be silly on an Econo box car like this to put that kind of money into it. So now you know the unbridled truth about this particular Nissan Altima, so you can make a wise choice yourself. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Jabram says, I'm going to finally sell my 2012 Mitsubishi Lancer at a loss and going to buy this 2010 Lexus ES350. What do you think of it? They're excellent vehicles. Now, it is a 10-year-old Lexus. You can get the mileage. They're solid, well-built cars. But, of course, trust no one. You mentioned it had one of those little fax things of whether it had been in wrecks or not. Maybe, maybe not. You can't believe those things. A lot of times they're not even worth the paper that they're printing. When you read the fine print now, it says, oh, this company has no wrecks reported to us. Yeah, well, maybe it was reported to somebody else. Who knows? You have a mechanic check that thing out and he says it's a good car? Go right ahead. They're excellent cars. But you do have to have a mechanic check it out. No ifs, ands, or buts. On any car, and especially on a higher-end car like that. Because let's say it was flooded, it might run okay, and then a year later, all the electronics keep shorting out from the circuit boards going out. You wouldn't want that. So have a mechanic check it. but it's a really good car if he says it's okay. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.